What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated 3-division world champion, superstar boxer Gervonta Tank Davis, who is 26 wins, no losses, no draw, 24 big wins by way of knockout, 27 years of age, 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach, and undefeated, newly crowned unified lightweight world champion Australian star boxer George Kambosos Jr., 20 wins, no losses, no draw, 10 wins by way of knockout. He is 28 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 69-inch arm reach. With that said, the WBA, they both hold the WBA, World Boxing Association's, and President Gilberto Mendoza's, a portion of their title. George Kambosos Jr., he holds the WBA super title at lightweight and 135, and Gervonta Tank Davis, he holds the WBA regular title at 135. With that said, the WBA said that they want to clarify the cluster, right? And they are going to order, after their respective upcoming fights. We know Gervonta Tank Davis is going to be taking on WBA interim world champion star boxer Rolando Rolly Romero, who's 14 wins, no losses, no draw, 12 wins by way of knockout. He is 26 years of age, 5'9" with a 68-inch arm reach. That's scheduled to take place May 28th, and at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. And it looks like George Kambosos Jr. can face off against two-time Olympic gold medalist, 3-division world champion, former unified lightweight world champion, Ukrainian superstar boxer Vasyl Lomachenko in his next fight, June 4th in the States, June 5th in Australia. So with that said, after their respective upcoming fights, the WBA is now stating that they want to order Gervonta Tank Davis face off against George Kambosos Jr., or one or both could be stripped of the title. And their focus is Gervonta Tank Davis. Obviously, they don't want to make that type of move when it comes to George Kambosos Jr., and he has more leeway because he is the super champion, okay? I guess more perks come with being a super champion than a regular champion, obviously. And so what's interesting is that we know George Kambosos Jr., whomever his next fight may be, whether that's against undefeated WBC lightweight world champion superstar boxer Devin the Dream Haney, who is 27 wins, no losses, no draw, 15 wins by way of knockout, 23 years of age, 5'8" with a 72-inch arm reach, or Vasyl Lomachenko. He wants a 2-fight deal, which means he wants a home and home. He wants the deal to be in Australia first fight and in Australia in the second fight. Should he lose, the rematch immediately will be in Australia. So it's interesting to see how that plays out regarding the WBA, because they're ordering Gervonta Tank Davis face off against George Kambosos Jr. and begin to get a deal done after their respective next upcoming fights. Well, Gervonta Tank Davis, should he beat Rolando Rolly Romero, which I highly expect him to do, he'll be available. But George Kambosos Jr. loses to Vasyl Lomachenko would be the best case scenario for Gervonta Tank Davis, because then that means Vasyl Lomachenko is not ordered to face off against Gervonta Tank Davis. He would get a voluntary defense, which would be George Kambosos Jr., and Gervonta Tank Davis would be able to keep his belt. But if George Kambosos Jr. beats Vasyl Lomachenko, then Gervonta Tank Davis is stuck in no man's land, because George Kambosos Jr., unless the rematch clause only resides with him, meaning that if he beats Vasyl Lomachenko, there is no second fight. But if he loses, there's a second fight. If that's the case, then it works out for both guys, Gervonta Tank Davis and George Kambosos Jr. He will be able to keep his title, and he would be able to go into negotiations to face off against George Kambosos Jr., which I would expect at that point in time, because he's promoted by a legendary retired Hall of Fame iconic superstar boxer and Floyd Money Mayweather and Mayweather Promotions. And Floyd Mayweather, we know, is not a strong believer in unifying the belts, okay? He's not interested in becoming an undisputed, unified world champion. That's not his thing. He doesn't want to pay sanction fees, and he's not going to allow Gervonta Tank Davis to go down that route. And we know this because Gervonta Tank Davis, he stated after George Kambosos shocked the world and defeated former unified lightweight world champion superstar boxer Teofimo Lopez, he would fight George Kambosos Jr., but he didn't want the belts. So obviously he's adopted the same mindset that Floyd Mayweather has when it comes to these sanction bodies and paying these sanction fees. We know legendary promoter, Top Rank CEO and promoter Bob Arum, he's on record stating that it's the worst thing a fighter can do is be undisputed, because now you have to pay all these unnecessary sanctioning fees. So nobody wants to pay the sanctioning fees. Ironically, everybody uses the sanction bodies to make these fights happen. Okay. And also too, ironically, they use these to not fight other fighters. Okay. But when it's convenient, they'll tell you that, you shouldn't want the belts. But when it's convenient, they'll tell you, I can't fight this fighter because of the belt. So you can easily do away with the sanctioning bodies, but they choose not to because, quite frankly, from what I hear is that you get more money when you're a champion. Okay. Well, I don't know how that could be true when we see Floyd Mayweather get the most money in the history of the sport of boxing, and he wasn't always a champion. Okay. We saw even today, there's fighters today that Canelo Alvarez, if he drops the belts, he's still going to get the biggest money he could possibly get with or without the sanctioning belts. Okay. Which proves that you can make a name and make big revenue without the sanctioning bodies. So with that said, this, I believe, would be a legacy fight for Gervonta Tank Davis. If George Kambosos Jr. is to beat Vasyl Lomachenko, or even if Vasyl Lomachenko was to beat George Kambosos Jr., but again, he would have to fight him twice. So that means at least 6 months is off the table for Gervonta Tank Davis to fight the winner of this fight, if Lomachenko wins the fight. But if Kambosos wins, this is a legacy fight. Kambosos beat Teofimo Lopez. He would have beaten Vasyl Lomachenko. He beat the likes of Mickey Bey, right? He's beating, he also beat, multiple world champions, okay? He beat Lee Selby. He beat Teofimo Lopez, Vasyl Lomachenko, and Mickey Bey. That would be 4 champions that George Kambosos would have beaten, and he's the undisputed champion, the unified champion. And then you fight him and beat him, well, that makes for a massive payday. It's a massive legacy boost for Gervonta Tank Davis, whom people like to quote as just being one weight division world champion, because he only held the super titles at 130. Okay, he never held it at 135, and he didn't hold it at 140 either. Okay, he held the regular title at 135 and 140. But beating George Kambosos Jr. at that point in time, should he beat Lomachenko, would speak volumes. Okay, it would speak volumes for Gervonta Tank Davis, and it would solidify his place as being a true superstar and a pay-per-view star. Okay, Devin Haney gets big money. Devin Haney is the biggest paid fighter from junior welterweight on down. Okay, Devin Haney, he holds the WBC title, and guys are just maneuvering around Devin Haney because they don't want that fight because of stylistic matchup. Okay, Gervonta Tank Davis represents the star status. I believe Gervonta Tank Davis is a bigger star than Devin Haney currently as it stands. He fights on pay-per-view, and people view him as the cash cow and the guy to beat in those lower weight class, junior welterweight on down. But this would solidify him because the biggest name he's fought and beat was 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Leo Santa Cruz. As far as accolades and accomplishment goes, Leo Santa Cruz is the guy that represents that, okay? Outside of Leo Santa Cruz, there's no big names on Gervonta Tank Davis' resume that solidifies him as that cash cow, that's Mega's crossover superstar. He's exciting. He gets knockouts. He has no weaknesses outside of his physical limitation, his height. You understand what I'm saying? But he makes up for that in skills, athletic ability, power, ring IQ, his chin, his ability to box, his ability to make adjustments. He makes up for that. So with that said, I would believe that he would beat either Vasyl Lomachenko or George Kambosos. But if Vasyl Lomachenko was to beat George Kambosos twice, he beats George Kambosos, the WBA has to give him Gervonta Tank Davis a pass, because how could he make a fight with George Kambosos Jr. if he just lost, and then Vasyl Lomachenko is not ordered? He's not in that position. So how could Gervonta Tank Davis be stripped of his title at that point in time, his status? He just shouldn't be, okay? He should be able to wait, obviously, because they have a 2-fight deal, unless you're going to strip Lomachenko. But now, what's interesting here is that the big fight that people wanted to see at one point in time was George Kambosos, Vasyl Lomachenko versus Gervonta Tank Davis. Okay, that's the fight that people wanted to see and were clamoring to see for quite some time. And so imagine Vasyl Lomachenko is the unified champion, and Gervonta Tank Davis fights against Vasyl Lomachenko, the fight we've been waiting for, and it's a unified fight. That would speak volumes for his career as well. So, it just makes sense that Gervonta Tank Davis looks to fight the winner. I think that if Vasyl Lomachenko beats George Kambosos Jr., now while the WBA is eager to make a decision and have clarity, if he beats him, you can't strip him of the title. So why don't we get Devin Haney versus Gervonta Tank Davis while we have the rematch of Lomachenko versus George Kambosos Jr. and the winner for all the marbles? That solidifies Devin Haney's place, should he be victorious. It solidifies Gervonta Tank Davis' place if he's victorious. And it will solidify Vasyl Lomachenko, George Kambosos Jr. place, whomever wins and out of that round robin. It solidifies the winner of that mini tournament. Lomachenko beats George Kambosos. They rematch in Australia. Devin Haney, Gervonta Tank Davis fight. The winner fights the winner of that fight for all the marbles, for undisputed. Solidifies your history, your place, and your legacy at a glamour division and a lightweight division. So we got to see how this unfolds and plays out. I just think that it's a very interesting time for the WBA to make this decision, Gilberto Mendoza. But I'm not surprised in the least bit from the decisions they've been making that they would decide to go this route. But with that said, it should be a mini tournament. I believe Devin Haney deserves his opportunity. So we got to see how it unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
This is Amanda, the real deal Serrano, and you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.